Hello, reporter room investigators. I'm so happy to be with you here today. My name is Jessica Della Davies, and I'm an investigative journalist. And today we're going to be talking about the Summer Wells case because, as you know, Dawn Wells is out, and my computer's notifying me that I'm going live. And we're going to be talking about the Kiely Rodni case. So we have some interesting things to get into. Dawn Wells did not get extradited to Utah. As I shared with you in a prior video, I did not think that he was going to. And I believe this was in the interview that I did with John Davis, True Crime. And if you haven't seen that live stream, you'll want to check it out because John did a really great interview with Tim Mullen, the Dawn Wells media manager, and I interviewed him about that. And also on the Kiely Rodni case, I want to talk to you about some of the things, 6 things that kind of are throwing up red flags in this case. So you do need to be subscribed to participate in the top chat. So please go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And let me go ahead and thank our producers. Our executive producers, Energy Shots and Don K. Our producers, Joy Cowley, Sweet B, and Sasha Angel. Our channel members, and I also want to thank our mods today. 6 Cents Amelia is in the chat. Thank you so much for moderating today. And if you haven't already subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. We're trying to reach 17,000 subscribers. So let's get started. Jakey5 is here. Sweet B. Oh, hi, Sweet B. Great. Okay, and 6 Cents Amelia is here. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the Kiely Rodni case because we have not talked about that for about a week. And then we're going to delve into the Summer Wells case. And I have a package for you. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Foul play involved and what happened to Kiely. I'm going to leave this to you to decide. Based on all of the evidence that I have, I'm not here to be the sole judge or the determiner of what happened to Kiely Rodni. Sadly, because of the length of time that she sat in the water, many things could not be determined. They were not able to get the fluid from her vitreous tumor, So let's talk about that. So we know from the autopsy that a lot of substances that we believe, may have been involved in what happened to Kiely, and I'm watching my words here, they were not able to either test for or they simply didn't test for. And a lot of people feel like there's a conflict of interest with the fact that Shannon Moon is both the sheriff and the coroner from this town. And there's a lot of concern as to whether this was all done correctly or not. Now, Kiely was in the water for at least 14 days. We know we saw her driving her car into the water on the video at around 12:33 to 12:34. And we know it took some time for her car to sink. And then from there, we know that she was in the water for at least 14 days. We also know that Adventures with Purpose, according to them, were told not to check the Prosser Reservoir because that had already been cleared. Now, law enforcement disputes that, but Adventures with Purpose was very clear about the fact that they thought that maybe there was, them being told not to search Lake Prosser. So they went over to the Donner Reservoir and they went over to the Boca Reservoir. And then, of course, they went on to do the Lake Prosser Reservoir. So there's a lot of concern about the integrity of this case. So let's continue on, guys, because I think getting a sample from the liver, which is what they did with Kiely, would be a good second option. And we don't know what kind of condition that she was found in. And I'm watching my words here. And everything I'm sharing with you, by the way, everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion. And opinions are not facts. So please don't send any negativity to anyone. Let's be kind and good to each other. And this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So, let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on together. Inside of her eyeball, and they were forced to go into the liver. So she was in the water from August 6th, and she was retrieved from the water on August 21st by Adventures with Purpose. So she was in the water a long time. She was in the water a long time before she was retrieved. And there have been a lot of questions as to whether there was some kind of a stalling tactic involved. And I don't know the answers to these questions, guys. I just know when she went in the water. I know that law enforcement has stated that they did not tell Adventures with Purpose not to search the Prosser Reservoir. And maybe this could have just been a miscommunication. But, Adventures with Purpose did say out of the gate that they were told not to search the Lake Prosser Reservoir. So, did this fact that, they went on and searched the Donner Reservoir and also the Boca Reservoir first, that caused more delays. And it is odd that law enforcement was unable to find Kiely Rodni when she was located just 55 feet offshore from where her phone last pinged. So I don't know what to say about that. And she wasn't in really deep water, for those of you who are not familiar with this case. Now, Adventures with Purpose, the water had gone down about 3 feet. So they found her in between 10 and 14 feet of water. There's a little bit of a difference in there because of the way that the lake goes. And she was, the lake comes in on an incline. But law enforcement, that still would have put it to worst case scenario, 13 to 17 feet. And the car's 6 feet tall. So it seems like they should have been able to find it with just snorkel equipment. They shouldn't have needed to scuba dive into the water, right? But that's not what happened. They did not find her. And it was left to Adventures with Purpose to find her. So let's continue on. Let's go to number 2. Shall we? And we are going to be discussing the Summer Wells case in a few minutes, so please stay with me. 2. Was it Kiely driving the car? We are left to conclude that it probably was Kiely driving the car because no one else was found in the vehicle with her. And she was found alone inside the vehicle. Could someone have climbed out and run away? It's possible. We know that it happened in the Chappaquiddick situation. So I will leave it to you guys to let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. So what do you think about that? Because for those of you who don't know what the Chappaquiddick situation is, I'm sure you guys have all heard of JFK, John F. Kennedy. Well, his brother, Ted Kennedy, was with his girlfriend and he drove them inebriated into the Lake Chappaquiddick, and the car went under, and he got out and swam away and left her and didn't report it to anyone and just took off. So, was this some kind of a Chappaquiddick situation, or, was this just she drove in by herself? Because we do know that the back window was down, right? The window directly behind her was down as far as it would go, which was about halfway down. And we also know that the passenger front window, which would have been to her right, was also completely open. So the car would have gone under fairly quickly. But, as we saw with the headlights, it did seem like it took a little bit of time to submerge. So Holly said she thinks that law enforcement was going with an abduction theory at first. And Energy Shot says, I think someone who went home wet broke out the side of the window and swam out. And I have heard this and read this comment that a lot of people are concerned that somebody broke this window, the passenger window, and swam out of the vehicle. Now, we don't have any evidence that points to that. So I'm left to just think that, you know, how she ended up in the very back of the car is that as the car went under, the engine was heavier, so it would have gone under first. The headlights would have gone under first, and the back would have raised up. And that to get to where the air was, she crawled into the back. The only thing that throws me off is the car was found upside down. It had flipped. So did she, to get to the very back, that would have, if it had flipped before she started going back there, it means that she would have had to have gone to the base of the car, to what, the roof, because the roof is upside down, to get through the seats, because the seats would have been this way, right, with the seat there and pointing downward. So to get through this little thing, she would have had to have held her breath and gone under this way to get to the very back, unless she went to the very back before the car flipped, which is also possible. And I'm curious what you guys think. Skittles says that, I think, yeah, someone else was driving, jumped out, or pushed the car while she was in it. And Sweet B says, but if that happened and the accident scene investigative team would have found evidence of the window being broken out from the inside. You know, these are all very valid, very good points. But let's continue on together. Let's continue on. I'm so glad you guys are here with me. Thank you. 3. Why was Kiely found in the very back of the cargo bay? As I shared in earlier videos, it is possible that as the vehicle was going under, as long as it stayed right side up, and it probably would have initially, she would have been able to climb through the back seat. If water was pouring in from the window, the passenger front seat window, and behind the driver window, it would have added to her disorientation. Remember, it was dark. Remember, she was intoxicated, and she was in the water. So did she try to climb to the back where there was some oxygen? And is that how she ended up in the back of the cargo bay? Is this where she placed that 1236 phone call to Sami? Okay, so let's talk about that 1236 phone call. This part of the case is something that I just cannot get past. Welcome to Blues Woman channel for becoming a channel member. Thank you so much. So is this, if a second person, Lip says, if a second person was in there, it may be because she needed air while waiting and couldn't get out until after the car flipped. You know, it's a great point. And Sixth Sense Millie said that she needs to have a look at the autopsy report to see the type of sample and tests that were taken. Hasn't had a chance yet. And Sweet Bee says if she went back when the car was nosediving, the water would have helped propel her to the back really fast. That's true. And if the car was going under and the water was rushing in from the passenger and this back seat, and say she started moving toward the back, it would have, you know, potentially pushed Kiely toward the back of her vehicle as the car went under. So let's go to that 1236 phone call, because we've all seen the video of the car going into the water, and we see that the headlights go under at around 1234. So we don't know what time the back end would have gone under, but we know that's where Kiely was found. So we know somehow she ended up back there. So what was up with this 1236 phone call that Sami claims that Kiely placed to her? Because Sami says that Kiely called her at 12:36 a.m. And mind you, this is after Sami says that she told Kiely goodbye. She told her that she loved her, and she told her to stay safe, and she gave her a hug. So that sounds like a very meaningful goodbye. It doesn't sound like a little wave, and maybe Kiely didn't, just thought she was waving and didn't realize she was leaving. The way that Sami described this goodbye, it sounds like a very meaningful goodbye. So, and this took place around 12:15 to 12:25, right? So if Sami told her goodbye in this very meaningful goodbye, why was Kiely calling her at 12:36 a.m. as her car was going underwater or was starting already to be submerged. We know the headlights were under, but we don't know when the back end went in because it was dark out. Why would she be calling Sami to then ask her, did she need a ride home? This part of the case has never made sense. And I have not heard anything from law enforcement that says, this is what happened, or for Sami to come out and say, you know what, I was wrong about when the call was placed. It wasn't at 12:36, it was at 12:26 a.m. because 12:36 is a very specific time. It's not like she's saying around such and such a time. She's very specific about her time of when Kiely called her. So my question is this: is it possible that Kiely was calling Sami because she knew Sami, or she thought Sami might still be at the party and she needed help? Could the phone have just dialed in a panic? But then that goes back to, why did Sami choose to characterize this as a call where Kiely called to offer her a ride home? And this is the part that doesn't make sense. And this is the part that, law enforcement, it would really be helpful if they would have a press conference. Now, from what I am hearing, there is still some kind of an ongoing investigation into what happened in the Kiely Rodni case. So let's talk about the other people who were at this party, right? Because we know that there were a lot of guys at the party, and they said that there were a lot of overage guys at the party, right? We know that. So if there were overage guys at the party, what was their purpose in being there? Because we know how this goes, right? We know from Ronnie, who did an interview with IckedMel, he had two cousins. They both described Kiely in the tank top, which is the tank bodysuit. That's what they described her as wearing, and that is what she was found in. So law enforcement had put out the Lana Del Rey shirt and the pink sweatshirt, but she was actually found in that bodysuit. So I believe his cousins were there based on a number of things, including that they were able to describe what she was wearing. So he talked about why the older males might have been there. And I want to just share with you what his take on it was. So his take was that, and I'm going to be very careful with my words here. Ronnie's take on this was that the reason that there would have been older guys at the party is because these kids were getting supplied with things. So the kids were getting supplied with things. He said that the males would have been paying for these things and that the females would have been offered a free thing. So initially they would have been offered a free thing, but then when they went back to get more, they would have gone back to the same males and said, well, can I get some more for free, right? But then they don't do it for free. They'll either ask for money or, what will you do for me? Which is a form of grooming, in my opinion. So that was his take on why there were these older males at this party. And that just goes back to why this toxicology was so important and why there still may be an open case in the Kiely Rodni. Now, this could very well just be another way to just postpone the inevitable, right? And just close the case and just hope that we forget about what happened. But it could also be that there genuinely is an investigation into who was at the party and who was supplying what and to whom who they were supplying things to. So I think it's really important. And I think that's why the toxicology was so important. And unfortunately, they were not able to get a sample from Kiely's vitreous humor, which is in the fluid in her eye. They couldn't get that. They had to go to the liver, and that didn't really give them a lot of information. But a lot of you guys have been telling me in the comment section below, why didn't they test for certain substances? Right? Why were certain things not tested for? Now, it could be that was just the only sample that they were able to get, and that was the best they could do with the sample. Or, it could be some other reason. It could be some other reason of why they did not test for other substances. But I do think that it's a concern. I do think it's a concern. And I do think that the interview that IckedMel did is very interesting. It's very interesting with Ronnie. And I do think that we need to know more information. So Holly said, was that guy Ronnie interviewed by the FBI? That is such a great question, Holly, and I wish I had the answer to it, but I don't know. And Sweet Bee points out that some of the stuff will pass through your system through osmosis when submerged in water for a long time. Yes, and that may be very well what happened. That may be why there's still an ongoing case. Maybe they were hoping to close it, right? Maybe they were hoping to close it with the toxicology and just weren't able to. Mama Bear says, I don't believe they said goodbye. And she's talking about Sami said goodbye. I think Kiely was ringing Sami for help. I think so too. And Energy Shot says, like Hunter is hitting the scene again, I don't know. Oh, you're talking about Hunter H from the Summer Wells case. Okay, we're gonna do Summer Wells, but we're gonna do Summer Wells Energy Shots, I promise you. Of how his right. Okay, I get you. We're going to talk about Summer Wells, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But let's continue on with Kiely Rodni, because we are going through some red flags in this case. And a lot of these are things that you guys have brought up. You reporter room investigators have brought up into this case. And a lot of you have done your homework, you've done your research, and you're leaving very interesting comments. If you're not familiar with reporter room, this is a critical thinking true crime case. And what I mean by that is our subscribers tend to like to have all of the information given to them so that they can make their own determination as to what they believe happened. They don't want to be spoon-fed, and they're not just looking for a confirmation bias. They want to have all of the different angles and make up their own mind. Watch your words, guys, because there's some stuff I would love to like show your comment, and I can't show it because of words that are being used in there that I can't show. Sweet Pea says other things were tested. They just didn't list all the things tested for because it would have been too long of a report. It's easier on the lab and receiving agency to get what is positive. So that's a great point. And Energy Shots, you're right. Truth does matter. So let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. Because if this was some kind of a Chappaquiddick situation, and if somebody did get out of the car, it goes back to, we really need to know about that 12:36 a.m. phone call. Really, what was the proper time on that call? Was it just simply a misstatement? It's just such a specific time. It wasn't, she called me around 12:30 or she called me around 12:45. It's a very specific time. So I think that's interesting. And Holly, thanks, Holly. That's why we follow an investigative reporter. Thanks, Holly. That means a lot. So let's go to the next part, guys, because we have a lot to get through, and we're going to be talking about the Summer Wells case today too. So we have a lot of information to go through, which has still not been explained or accounted for. 4. Will anyone be held accountable for providing Kiely with substances that contributed to what happened to her? It doesn't appear so. And this breaks my heart. And I know it breaks your heart too. Because somebody provided this underage 16-year-old girl with substances. And this person is walking away without. So I'm concerned about this too, that could there be, no justice for what happened? Is somebody getting away with it because we don't have that toxicology report? And just like you guys, I've been feeling very frustrated with this case also, that we just don't have the answers that we were expecting to get with the toxicology. And frankly, I really did think we would get a press conference when that was available to law enforcement. But hearing that there's an ongoing investigation into the case, that may be why law enforcement has chosen not to tell us. So that gives me a little bit more hope with whether someone will be held accountable for what happened to Kiely or not. I feel a little bit more hopeful about it, because I do think, yes, I agree. Just doing Mez, like, so frustrated. Yes, I agree. I know everybody's frustrated, but hang in there, because let's give them a chance to go through everything that they have. And you know, maybe they do have more lab results and didn't release everything because there's an ongoing investigation. Or it could be that she was so compromised when they found her. And this is where I kind of want to also just, you know, brace yourselves. Remember with the in the Casey Anthony case, right? Remember the Casey Anthony case, and her daughter Keely went missing and she got off, right? Remember, it took months to find Keely. And I just, you know, I know everybody's like frustrated that we haven't found Quentin yet. And I'm hopping cases here for just a second. But I do think that law enforcement will find him. But what kind of condition and what they're going to be able to learn, I just want to set up realistic expectations, because he's been in that landfill. He's very little, so his bones would be very soft. And, you know, this may be what we ran into with Kylie, where she just was in the water such a long time. But, you know, there's just a couple of questions that need to be answered. Is someone going to be held accountable for what happened to her? Or is it the Truckee way? We just don't hold people accountable. Or, you know, is someone going to get away with what happened to her and get off scot-free? I hope not. And I'm hopeful. I am somewhat hopeful, because I know that we're being told that there's still an ongoing investigation. So I really, really hope that once this ongoing investigation is concluded, I hope that we find out what really happened and who provided substances to these kids. Because remember, Sami told us it wasn't just seniors who were at the senior farewell party. Underclassmen came there too. So there would have been freshmen, sophomore, junior kids. And what was that 4 a.m. cleanup that the parents went to go do? You know, we just still have some questions and red flags. But let's continue on, reporter room investigators. Let's continue on. Any consequences at all? But was Kylie strapped into the very back of the cargo bay? We have not heard that she was strapped in. No discussion about this was made, and it could have just been that the state that she was in, they were not able to determine that, or it could just be that she drove around with that seatbelt clanking along the back of her vehicle for an hour, a day, a week. You know, I don't know. So here's a great point that someone raised in the comment section the other day, which is that, you know, we had talked a lot about whether she was strapped into the back or not. And it could be that the condition that she was found in, they just weren't able to determine that. Or it could be that she was just driving around with that seatbelt, you know, clanking. It just seems like such an odd way to drive around. But I read in some of the comments that some of you guys thought that maybe, you know, Sami has always said that the substances were in Kylie's car. They went back to Kylie's car to get more drinks. She placed them in Kylie's car. So if that is true, is maybe that was in the very back? And could they have been accessing the very back of her vehicle for something like that, where she had some kind of drinks in the back, and that was how the seatbelt ended up being stuck in that back hatch window? What do you guys think in the comment section below? Cheryl Poole says, yes, but there were 2 open windows. I don't believe Kylie was driving the car. So you think someone else was driving the car? And Just Doing Mess says, I do not know. There's still an ongoing investigation. Jakey says, the mother seemed happy to accept the Truckee way, but the father and grandfather want answers. Well, that brings me, let's talk about Lindsay for a second. It's such a great point, Jakey, because, you know, Lindsay feels like there's honor in silence, right? So who, if Sami's telling the truth, and if the drinks were with Kylie, then where did she get them from? And this could be why they were going to the back of that vehicle. This could be why they were going to the back of the vehicle. Energy Shot says, we saw pictures of the strap. We need Adventures with Purpose to step forward and help with this. They could have done that, Jessica. Yeah, I think so. I think Adventures with Purpose is stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if they want to continue to be able to do search and rescue cases and find missing people, right? And by search and rescue, I don't mean rescue the person, but search and recovery is probably a better way to describe what they do. Search and recovery cases, they need to be able to work in tandem with law enforcement. And if law enforcement has an active, ongoing investigation into this case, then maybe there's a reason that Adventures with Purpose isn't coming forward with this information right now. Maybe they're not coming forward with this information because they've been asked not to come forward with this information, because I think all of us would like to see the rest of tow truck driver / road assistance guy's interview. We would all like to see the rest of that. And maybe they feel like they can't go against law enforcement, because if they do, then they will not be asked to work on any cases in the future. Or if the FBI does have an active, ongoing investigation into what happened and who these strange men were at the party. And that's where I think this may be going. And they couldn't make the case with the toxicology because of what they were able to recover. They couldn't get the fluid sample from the vitreous humor like they were hoping. They had to go to the liver. So they're somewhat limited. So they're relying on other investigation techniques to gather the evidence. And none of us want someone to get away with this. So I feel like Adventures with Purpose is between a rock and a hard place, which is why you haven't seen me do a big pushback on them at all. Holly Golightly says, I think Lindsay knows more about what happened and she doesn't want to share on social media. Yeah, and she may know more about what happened. And Sweepy says, Adventures with Purpose did what they could. And you're right. Just Doing Mess says, you only get one prosecution. And we all saw Casey Anthony getting away with that, right? We all saw Casey Anthony getting away with that. And none of us wants that this time. None of us wants that this time. And What Was Where says, why didn't the parents, I don't know what the ID means, identify her? Oh, I think that's a really personal choice. If you've ever had an open casket funeral and you've had family members, you'll see that some family members don't want to see their loved ones that way. They want to remember them the way they were. And I don't know we got some idea from the autopsy of what kind of condition she was found in. So it may very well be that they wanted to remember her the way she was. And I think that we do need to respect that choice. They didn't want to remember her that way. And so I don't doubt anybody or want to shame anybody for not wanting to see their loved one that way. Because remember, as stressed out and frustrated as all of us have been, her parents have been way more stressed and under way more duress than we could possibly imagine. And I'm seeing in the comment section, a lot of you guys think all of this is related. And I think so too. Jakey says that the saddest thing about all of this is Kiely didn't actually want to go to the party in the first place. Kiely was supposed to be going to a car show that night and switched to go to the party. And it is really sad, because if she hadn't gone, we probably wouldn't have even known her name. And that would have been a good thing for Kiely, right? Sweet Bee says, when my son passed away 17 months ago, they absolutely wouldn't let me see him. Even the funeral home said, no. I am so sorry that this happened to you, Sweet Bee. Please accept my condolences on your tremendous loss. But you guys can understand that, not every parent wants to see their child that way. And a lot of family members want to remember their loved ones the way they were, and not even see an open casket. And you can imagine this would have been so much worse than just that, right? So let's continue on together. Let's continue on. It's possible that could have just been hanging out of her car for a long time. And I'm really curious of what you guys think about that. 6. Who did tow truck driver / road assistance guy see at the Boca Reservoir that weekend of August 5th, 6th, and 7th? He said he thought he saw her on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and so maybe he did see her on Friday, but he said his GPS showed he was in the area on Saturday or Sunday. So I am hoping that Adventures with Purpose will release the rest of the videotape so we can see what else he had to say on this matter. Because now that law enforcement has concluded and ruled on what happened to Kiely, I think we need to see the rest of the video. Okay, so, but now we're hearing that there is an ongoing investigation. So even though they've ruled what happened to Kiely as being an accident, there seems to be some kind of an investigation going on still into this case. And they are telling us that there's still an active and ongoing investigation. And I've always said that I thought somebody was going to have to be held accountable for providing whatever was provided to these kids. So they probably weren't able to make their case with the toxicology report by itself because of the quality of whatever they were going to get. We know that parents were discouraging their kids from coming forward. They didn't want their kids to ruin their futures over this, which is very, very sad and very upsetting. I really, really wish that they would have had the kids come forward. I think it would have been great if the kids had come forward. But they, some of them did and some of them did not. So they're having to make their case a different way, and they're not telling us how. And so I do think that this is factoring into the information that we're getting from Adventures with Purpose and, road assistance tow truck driver guy. I do think that we need to know who he saw near the Boca Reservoir, because he said that he thought it could have been either Saturday, Sunday, and then he also threw in there Friday. So maybe he really just did see them on Friday. And this is, a big nothing burger. But he said he checked his GPS. And if this was a nothing burger, why wouldn't law enforcement be like, yep, we checked the dash cam footage and it wasn't Kiely? Boom. End of story. Done. But they haven't come out and said that. And I'm not sure why, except that maybe this has something to do with the open and ongoing investigation into this case that may be still being conducted. This may be why Adventures with Purpose is not able to show us the rest of the video footage, because they did tell us that they were going to show the rest. Right? They did tell us that. And they do strike me as men of their word. I do believe that if, they told us they were going to do this, I do believe they were planning to show us this video footage. So if they're not showing it to us now, I think there is probably a reason why we're not seeing this. So Sweet Bee says she doesn't trust road assistant memories guy. Have to check the video. Yeah, I agree, Sweet Bee. We can't just take his word for it. He did say he checked his GPS and he was in the Boca Reservoir area only on Saturday and Sunday. So, I think all of us were ready to just conclude that this was an accident and, and move on, except when we saw the video of him saying that he had seen Kiely and her vehicle. And anybody who's ever had road assistance, when you call road assistance, you have to show them, you have to give them an ID number, right? Your card ID number for whatever your agreement is with them. And a lot of times you have to also give them an ID. You have to show them identification. Now, maybe if he had the ID number, maybe that's all he took. I don't know. But I just think it's very, very interesting. I think it's very, very interesting that we have not seen this video from Adventures with Purpose. I don't think it's because Adventures with Purpose doesn't want to share it, because I think that they would share it if they could. And I think that it maybe has something to do with the fact that there is an ongoing investigation. And I think the ongoing investigation is related to whoever provided who these strange men were at the party that Ronnie talked about on IckedMel's channel. Who the strange men were at this party, how they provide things, right? The quid pro quo, the grooming, how they provide things, why they provide things. And I think that this, maybe law enforcement's effort, since they couldn't make their case with toxicology, to go another route on this. And Energy Shot says Sami and her friends were my red flag. Who lets a teenager run investigations with reports from witnesses? Oh my gosh, that's such a great point, Energy Shots, because I think a lot of us were really concerned about these teen to teen meetups. I've always felt like maybe, I don't think that she was just having them privately. I would be appalled. Let me put it this way. I would be shocked to find out that they let a teenager, Sami was 18, but they let an 18-year-old have these teen to teen meetups privately in a trailer without listening in on what was being said. I suspect that they did listen in. I do think that because there's still an ongoing investigation. Now, this could just be a big stall tactic to just delay us till, to get distracted on other cases. But I don't know. To me, it kind of drags it out. They could have just said, and that's it, case closed. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. So I believe them when they say that there's an ongoing investigation. I believe them when they tell us that there's, they're trying to figure it out. So if they couldn't make the case against these men, these strangers, why were these adult men at this party? Well, I think we learned why, right? Ronnie's cousins, Ronnie told us why. And I do think that there's a reason. I do think that there is a reason. The case, no, Albert, there, that's a great question. Aliza, sorry, I thought it was Albert. Good thing I clicked on it. Aliza said, I thought this investigation was closed. Am I wrong? My understanding is there is still an ongoing investigation into this case, which is why Adventures with Purpose is not able to release the road assistance guy tow truck driver information. Okay, so let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. And I do think a lot of us are concerned about the way that this toxicology was released. It was released with a tweet, and that was such bad form, in my opinion. They released it with a tweet. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have released somebody's toxicology like that. But if you have an open and ongoing investigation, maybe you don't want to have a press conference where you're going to be asked a bunch of questions because, the top couple of questions are going to be, what's up with the 12:36 a.m. phone call from Kiely to Sami? Sami says that Kiely called her to offer her a ride home. How could she have done that if her car was literally going under the water? So what was really the nature of that phone call? Or is the 12:36 time frame just wrong? Is it just a wrong time and Sami just misspoke? That'd be such an easy thing to clear up once and for all. The other question I think that's going to be asked of law enforcement is what's going on with the road assistance guy and that dash cam footage. What does it show? Who was out at near the Boca Reservoir? Who did he see? When did he see them? And what time did this occur? And I think that, those are big asks that everyone wants to know in this case. Everybody wants to know. Yes, Mama Bear says a tweet, so disrespectful, unless they had permission from her family. And, if I were her family and I knew that somebody provided her with something, right? If somebody provided her with something that led to what happened to her and I knew they couldn't prove it from the autopsy, then I would hope that law enforcement would do everything in their power to get to the bottom of who provided these things. And this is where I think that an open investigation would probably be leading. I always thought, because it is a felony in California to provide something to a minor that leads to serious injury or demise, which is what we had happen in this case. We had a serious injury. We had a demise. Dwayne Brown says that I think the FBI are investigating the local police and partygoers, and they have a true course of a death and not a fake one. I don't know. And Gigi Price says news channels in Kansas City officials tell stories say that law enforcement said, quote, they will continue to work with the family on any new information in the investigation. Very interesting. So I do think that Lindsay seems to trust law enforcement. And it may be because she knows some things that we don't know. She may have seen that video of Kiely driving into the water, which is why she knew that road assistance guy could not have seen her on Saturday or Sunday. So who did he see? Um, who did he see? But let's continue on, guys. And we are going to be talking about the Summer Wells case too. So please stay with me. If you haven't subscribed to Reporter Room, please do. And please give me a thumbs up and help me out with the YouTube algorithm. They thank you so much. It does really help me out a lot. I don't know. I find somewhat distasteful. They ruled her death an accidental drowning after her vehicle was found in the lake. And in the autopsy, it said that she drowned in a lake while inside her vehicle and that there was no indication of foul play. And according to the toxicology report, she had ethanol and another substance in her system. However, they're saying that the alcohol could be the result of decomposition. So I guess they didn't have a good sample at all. And let me read you their tweet. It said, today an autopsy was conducted on the deceased individual who was found in the Prosser Reservoir on Sunday, August 21st. The Nevada County Sheriff/coroner has identified the decedent as 26-year-old Kiely Rodni of Truckee. And then the tweet continued, the Placer County Sheriff's Office and the Nevada County Sheriff's Office are in communication with Kiely's family and offer our deepest condolences to them during this extremely difficult time. This is an ongoing investigation and no other information is available at this time. So I'm a little bit confused. So do we have an... Okay, so that was part of the tweet. We have an ongoing investigation, and this is why we're not giving information right now. So that was part of their release. I mean, it is feels somewhat disrespectful to release that all in a tweet. I don't know, to me, but if her family was okay with it and they are more focused on trying to find out who was at the party providing young people with things they weren't supposed to have, and I'm watching my words here, they may feel like that they're okay with the way that this was handled and the way that it was released. So anyway, let's finish this one up because we have some Summer Wells stuff to get into. For those of you that don't know, Don Wells is out. He is a loose goose. He is on the loose. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Barb. She said, is there a connection to Celicia Sy and her family, Ronnie, and the room for rent? So, Barb, I'm assuming you're talking about the Summer Wells case. I do not have an answer to that question, but I will definitely check it out and get back with you on that. I don't know if there's an investigation. I do think it's weird that there was a room for rent. I thought it was really weird that they picked up Jose and took him home. I've always thought that was so strange. So a strange man you didn't know you would bring home with your husband gone and you have 4 children in the house with your mother there. I don't know. I always thought that was very, very bizarre. And we're going to dig more into the Summer Wells case in just a moment. But let's finish up with Kiely Rodni. Let's finish up with Kiely Rodni, shall we? Ongoing investigation or not? And why didn't they put this with a press conference? Why are we getting this information via a tweet? It just feels shady and I think so many people have had that same feeling, right? That feeling of, ugh, the way that this is being done just feels shady. We all felt like they snuck out the toxicology with a tweet, not doing it with a press conference to ask questions. It just felt ick the way that they handled that. We were concerned. A lot of you guys were very, very concerned about Shannon Moon being both the coroner and also the sheriff. They thought that was, a lot of people thought that was a conflict of interest, including Duty Ron, who had a guest on his show, who was a medical examiner. And she also said that she felt like there was a conflict of interest there too. She said that was sending up huge red flags for her. But there is still, according to what law enforcement has put out, still an open investigation into the case. So maybe maybe it's not as shady as we think. Maybe it's not as shady as we think. Maybe there's more to this information than we know right now. And maybe the family is okay with just, you know, having to, yeah, Gigi says scared of slip ups. Yeah, exactly, Gigi. Law enforcement is not going to want to put something out where they're asking questions or answering questions on the fly from journalists. And, you know, they're going to get hammered with questions and follow up and trying to answer those questions. If the FBI has an ongoing investigation, they're going to ask the sheriff's office, please don't have a press conference. Please don't do that. We're still investigating. And I do think it all leads back to the men. We were told that there were older men over the age of 40 at a party. And that always struck a lot of us as being very, very weird. Why would adult men be at a senior farewell party? It never made any sense. It never made any sense to any of us. And I think we now have figured out why they were there, right? There was some grooming going on. There was providing things for free the first time. And then if you wanted a little bit more or needed a little bit more, you would have to, what are you going to do for me? Right? That's what Ronnie said on the IckedMel show. That's what he thought. So maybe the parents are okay with this because they know that there's more to come. They know that the investigation is still ongoing and they have some faith that there is going to have something solved. Let's see what Energy Shot says. Maybe it goes deeper. Maybe this will be a key for them to break another issue they are working on. Exactly. I agree. I think that maybe there is something else in play here that we just cannot see. And I think that I'm going to give Adventures with Purpose the benefit of the doubt on not releasing this information because there is an ongoing investigation, that their hands are tied. And if you remember, CheckItTV also had the laptop and he had video of himself retrieving that, right? And he said he was told by law enforcement to take it down. He was told by law enforcement to take it down. So it makes you wonder if there was something on the laptop and maybe that's what they are trying to make their case with. What do you guys think? If you think that the ongoing investigation, thank you so much, more Blazer Rage. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. If you think the ongoing investigation into this is related to law enforcement trying to find out who the older men were, I think we know what they were doing there. We just don't know who, but we know the why, right? We know the why. So the law enforcement knows the why. Now they need to figure out who was there. We know they have video, and this is why none of the footage, we still haven't seen the pictures from this party. We still have not seen the photography, the photos. And for the people who were like, oh yeah, we're from Truckee, we don't take photos. That's what Jane Doe number 2 said. We're just not into our cell phones like that. Come on. We saw them with the, in the invitation for the party. It was a boxing match with teenagers on the invitation, which was taken from a cell phone from a prior party. I'm not buying. I think, Sami told us there were lots of video and photographs from the party and that law enforcement had them. I do believe that they do have lots of video and photographs from the party. So now they have to go through them because the toxicology is probably not going to make their case for them in the way that they hoped, due to the quality of the sample that they were able to get. So now they're having to look at other ways to make their case, to try to hold somebody accountable for what happened. And somebody knows who these older guys were. So that would be a long process to go through all of the video footage, to go through all of the pictures, and then you have to put it through a facial recognition software. People don't know someone's real name. You may try to track down and get people to talk to you to try to find out who was at the party. Were these people known to these teens? Were they known? Were these people, had they been there before? Was this something that happened repeatedly at parties? I suspect that that it had. Yeah, Mama Bear says, give me a break. They don't use their cell phones. Exactly. Exactly. I agree. I agree. All right. Let's continue on, guys. My opinion. I know from the information in the report that the Nevada County Sheriff's investigator said, quote, I have recently reviewed the pathologist's final report of the autopsy, which listed the cause of death in this case as drowning. There were no other significant contributing conditions listed. I'm not clear on how they can say there were no other contributing factors when there were other. It is so frustrating that they were not able to find other contributing factors. And again, this just goes back to them not being able to get the sample from the vitreous humor and having to go to the liver, and then just the condition maybe that she was in. And what a shame that they didn't find her sooner. You know, that's another question, another big question I think a lot of us have for law enforcement. If there were cameras set up pointed at Lake Prosser, why wouldn't you get that footage first? Wouldn't that be the first thing you would be pulling, is all the camera footage from that area? And then they would have known that she went into the water. Such a big red flag that they didn't do this. And I just don't understand that. I just don't understand why they wouldn't have got the camera footage first. And then they would have located her car so much faster and not have put everyone through, her loved ones, what they had to go through waiting. And they were moving on to an abductor theory. If you remember, they were moving on to an abductor theory in this case. That's what Lindsay Neiman's best friend was putting out. They thought she had been abducted. And of course, if I were a mom and my child disappeared, I would much rather think that she had been abducted than have her in Lake Prosser, which is what ended up being the case. So I do think that I do believe law enforcement when they tell us that there's an open and active investigation, and this is why they're not giving us a press conference, and this is why they're not giving us more information. Let's continue on. Oh, I agree. Six Sense Amelia, who's one of our mods tonight, is saying, I really enjoy this chat room. People can be civil and disagree with courtesy. Thanks heaps, everybody. Yes, thank you. If you guys are new to Reporter Room, first of all, thank you for being here. But also just know this is a critical thinking channel. I'm not going to do a confirmation bias kind of thing. I'm going to give you different points of view and different sides and all of the information that I have, because you guys are smart enough to make up your own determination of what you guys think happened, Substances in her system. It just doesn't make any sense at all. And it just seems like they we're anxious to close the books on this one. As always, I'm going to do my journalistic duty by you guys by bringing you all sides of the information and making it clear to you that what I'm sharing with you is my opinion. And I get asked that all the time. How come you always say this is my opinion and opinions are not facts? Because if you've ever read, an opinion piece in the newspaper, it clearly says op-ed or opinion right in the title, so you can tell what's opinion and what's fact. And I think that on television, these lines have become blurred, where we're not really clear if the pundit that we're listening to is actually giving us a fact or sharing their opinion with us. And I think it's just really important to clarify what's opinion and what's fact, which is why I do my disclaimer that way. So yeah, I do. I initially felt the same frustration that a lot of you guys did, that I just really wish we had more information from the autopsy. I think they got what they could. I think they got what the sample that they could get. And the fact that they had to go to the liver speaks volumes. It speaks volumes. But I still have some faith that, because they are telling us that there is still an ongoing investigation into this case, I still have faith that we will be getting answers. It's not as quick as we would like. But if you think back to other cases where they couldn't make the case, right? Like the Casey Anthony case, she was found innocent. She was or not guilty. She was found not guilty, where they couldn't make the case. I'd rather let them have the time to do what they need to do to make their case, because I'd like for somebody to be held accountable for providing what they did to these kids, right? I'd like for somebody to be held accountable for that. And I, I hear the same thing with the, with the frustration with the Quentin thing, where law enforcement has said that Leilani is their number one primary suspect, and she's the only suspect. We heard today that they are ruling out Danny Youngkin, right? But thank you so much for this, Versi. I really appreciate this very, very much, and I really do. I'll put it to good use. I'm actually saving for a new computer, because I do, if you guys ever see my regular videos, I do very, very edited videos, and I just need a little bit more. I need a little bit more oomph on my computer. This one's not even a year old, but I still hear it fussing at me when I'm like trying to get the more edited videos together. So let's finish this up, and then I do want to get to the Summer Wells case, because we have Don Wells, who is out. He's on the loose. He's on the prowl. How long do you think it'll be before he ends up appearing on YouTube? How many days or weeks do you guys give it? If you think it will be mere days, like under 1 week, put up a 1. And if you think Don Wells will not appear on YouTube until after 1 week, put up a 2. If you think Don Wells will never again appear on YouTube, put up a 3. I'm really curious what y'all think. All right, let's continue on with Kiely Rodni together. Let's continue on. So if you're someone who is just looking for confirmation bias, you may feel uncomfortable at times with this channel, because this channel is geared toward critical thinkers. And a lot of the people that are subscribed to this channel like to have all of the different sides of the information so that they can determine their own conclusions. I am very interested to learn what you think happened to Kiely Rodni. Subscribe and leave me a comment. So I am seeing a variety of different answers on this from you guys. I'm seeing a variety of different answers. I'm seeing some people put up 1s. I'm seeing a lot of 2s. So I'm going to be really curious to up this. But let me I have another package for y'all. Let me go to my thing. Let me grab this one. Okay. So
hours, and we went in after.
For those of you who know me and know Reporter Room and have been with me for a long time, you know I am a massive Peter Hyatt fan. He first came on my radar when he did the analysis for the Richard Hall videos on the Madeleine McCann case. He does statement analyst, and I consider him to be one of the best statement analysts in the United States. And I'm always interested to have his input. He did a really good statement analysis on Leilani Simon. Now, he didn't have a whole interview with her. He had an edited, because that's how they released it. I think they only got her on camera for just like a couple of minutes, so they edited it together. But he still was able to go in, and I featured a little bit of that in my video that I put out, my last video on Quentin Simon, if you want to check that out. But let's listen to him on the Summer Wells case, and then we're going to talk about Summer Wells.
Flowers, and we went in after we got done washing our hands. Now, if you're planting flowers in the dirt, your hands are dirty, and the expectation is you're going to wash your hands. The expectation is not that you're going to have a need to talk about it. And this is where we often explore for guilt. I don't doubt that she washed her hands, and I'm not saying she lied about that. But what she's doing is including information that isn't necessary for the case, but does something else. We often find washing, when it is included unnecessarily, as another signal of guilt.
So he thinks that the hand washing, the fact that they were describing what was going on with Summer Wells, that somehow related. So I thought that was very interesting. And I will link his whole video for you guys in the description below. Let me skip ahead, though. There we go. Right there. All right. Let's watch a little bit of the package and then we're going to talk about it. Disappear. The timeline is completely different than what we were originally told by Dawn and Candus. Supposedly, Candus, Summer, and Grandma all got in the car on June 15th to take Grandma to Holston Valley Medical Center to have her knee checked out. But was this all pre-planned? Why was H invited? Because we know Candus and Allie weren't getting along. And why couldn't Grandma, name the park that Summer swam in on the day she disappeared? Is it because she wasn't at Warriors State Park? Is it because she wasn't at the watering hole? So we know that H has returned home, and if you don't know who he is, he's the teen son of Candus's former friend, Allie. And they had a falling out at some point, and I suspect it's related to H. So H states that he's not good with time, but he believes Candus arrived to pick him up on the day that Summer disappeared, June 15th at 11 a.m. So I think a big question that a lot of us have had in the Summer Wells case is that we all have wondered why Candus Bly left her 3 boys back at home, only took Summer, right? And we found out from Ernie Shell that there was an open CPS case into Summer. And we also know that in Tennessee, if the child is 8 years old or younger, 8 years old or younger, it would be considered a felony if something happened to her, right? So why did Candus take Summer? And I don't think Candus was at the watering hole. You know, I could be wrong, but I don't think she was at the watering hole. I think she was at the Holston Valley Medical Center, and I think that they went back and got her. I think that Candus took H to the watering hole for purposes other than going swimming. But why, if she had told H that she was going to a water park and told the boys she was going to a water park, they'd want to go, right? So why did she leave those 3 boys at home, her 3 boys at home, and pick up the son of her frenemy? Because Allie and her weren't getting along. They weren't even on speaking terms at this point, right? They weren't even on speaking terms at this point. So why would you go pick up your frenemy's son to go to the watering hole and take your child, take your daughter who could not swim, who was a preschooler that could not swim, without a booster seat, without any lunch, and without giving her any kind of flotation device, and just let her swim? And we know from H's account that Summer was underwater for some period of time. And I don't think that it was and she seemed okay. He said that she came back up and she seemed okay, but was she? Was she okay? Was she okay? Because, well, let's continue on. Also claims that Candus told him that Dawn had gone to work taking the boys with him. But this never lined up with Candus's script, because Candus always claimed that Dawn went to work and the boys stayed home to clean the house. So at this point, they're all supposed to go fishing or to a water park to swim. But instead, Candus gets a call from Candus to pick her up at the hospital. And supposedly, they all got in the car to pick up Candus, went to Walgreens to drop off Candus's prescription, and then headed to Warriors Path State Park while they waited for the prescription to be refilled. And while they were waiting in line at the Walgreens drive-thru, H says Candus got a call from Dawn, and Candus told him that Dawn had stated there was a man on their property that day lurking around, and that he had been hanging around for a week or so, and that this stranger was stalking children. This part of the story has always set off red flags for all of us, right? It's just bizarre, because I do believe that there was some kind of a call that came in from Dawn. Now, if Candus just characterized the call in a specific way and H misunderstood her, okay. But if you heard that there was someone on your property stalking kids, and this is where I thought maybe H was brought along that day to be the patsy. Maybe this was some kind of a setup. But if you were just bringing your frenemy son along that day, it's really weird. She left her 3 boys at home and just brought him along. But Don's at home and he somehow knows there's a stranger on the property stalking kids. What would be the first thing you would do as a parent if you heard that? You'd go home, right? Did Don go home? We don't know. We don't know because law enforcement has not released any information about where the cell phones were pinging that day. Did Candus go home? Well, we know she didn't go home. Wouldn't you like rush home? Instead, they made several stops before they went home after they picked up Grandis's prescription, right? They even went grocery shopping at the Price Less. So let's continue on, guys, because this whole thing is so sketchy and weird. It just doesn't add up. And Mama Bear, this is such a great question. She said, why did Allie let H go with Candus if they fell out over H? I wish I knew the answer to that question. I wish I knew the answer to that question. And we know now, if for those of you that maybe you don't know, but Allie did lose H. She did lose custody of him. So maybe there was something else that, some other pieces to the puzzle that we just don't know yet. But let's continue on, guys. Candus denies that this phone call occurred, but we have so many problems with her credibility that I will leave it up to you guys to make of it what you will. But why would Don make this call, and why would Candus deny that this call occurred? Because it doesn't make sense. If you as a parent had a stranger lurking around your property while your children were at home alone, wouldn't a normal parent rush home or call law enforcement? But instead, they all dropped off Grandis's prescription. Candus got cigarettes and vapes, and she got a can of Twisted Tea, which she claims was for Grandis, but H said that Candus gave it to him. They all went to Warriors Path State Park, where Summer, a little 5-year-old preschool who couldn't swim, was swimming in a dank watering hole. And was she even supervised that day? Candus claims that she and her mother picked flowers while Summer swam, and that H wandered up the path flashing gang signs. So Grandis is smart, right? Grandis isn't dumb. She took her trailer, she moved it. She wasn't getting involved in this, right? Grandis is smart. Grandis is, when she gets interviewed on TV, now Candus wouldn't even go on camera. And when she initially did go on camera to advocate for Summer, the very first time when Summer first was disappeared back on June 15th of 2021, Candus didn't go on camera for almost 2 weeks, to ask for her daughter's return. Why? And then when the reporter came back, right before Don ended up in jail, while Don was in jail, Candus had another opportunity to go on camera and ask for her daughter's safe return. She wouldn't go on camera. Grandis did and blew up the whole timeline, right? Because the way Grandis told it, it didn't seem like Grandis was even at the watering hole. And even when she talked about them coming home, there was this afterthought. And Peter Hyatt, that's where I love his statement analysis. There was this afterthought where we had Grandis said, and Candus and the boys helped unload the groceries. Beat. Pause. And Summer. She almost forgot to throw Summer in there. So do I think and Grandis could not remember the name of the Warriors Path State Park watering hole. I just find that, just mind-blowing to think about. It doesn't make any sense, does it? But let's continue on, guys. There are just so many red flags in this case. Why did Candus have her daughter at this swimming hole? This was not they had a pool. Warriors Path State Park has a really nice pool with lifeguards. You can go to an actual pool at Warriors Path State Park. And this was not like a normal looking swimming hole. This was the watering hole for the horse stables. And this whole thing of them picking flowers, I'm not buying. Grandis was in so much pain she had to go to the medical center to get her, the hospital to get treatment for her knee. But then she's going to go down this dirt path and bend over and start picking flowers. But she needed help from Candus and the boys to get her and Summer to get her groceries into the house. No, something's not right here. But let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. So, where were the flowers? And was anybody watching 5-year-old Summer swim alone in a dank, dark watering hole without a life vest or flotation device? Meanwhile, Grandis says when they got home, they planted cactus. So my question is, was H brought along that day to be a patsy for Candus and Dawn? And H would have almost made the perfect patsy for them, right? But he ended up having a doctor's appointment. So he didn't just have his mom to give him an alibi of where he was at. He had an actual doctor's appointment that he had to go to. So if he was originally supposed to be the patsy, they couldn't come back and blame it on him and say he somehow snuck up onto the property, right? Because the whole thing of going to pick him up, that part has never made sense to most of us. Why would you go pick up H? Why would you go pick up H and leave your 3 boys home? The 3 boys would want to go fishing if that's what you were going to do. The 3 boys would want to definitely go to a water park. I don't know any kid that if you said to them, hey, we're going to go to a water park, would be like, oh, I'd rather sit at home in my house and watch YouTube videos. It doesn't make any sense at all. It just doesn't make any sense. So if they were going to make H be the patsy, and this isn't if, I'm speculating here, then the fact that he had that doctor's appointment, they could have maybe overcome Allie by saying, oh, she's just giving him an alibi. But because he had that doctor's appointment, they couldn't overcome that. So they had to maybe let that go, in my opinion. But let's continue on. Was this all pre-planned out? Because there definitely would have been a motive with the CPS case being opened into Summer prior to her disappearance. Yeah, I think that not knowing about the CPS case, I think that Candus spending whatever time she was spending with Ernie Shell, I think that was really interesting. I think that it was really helpful for us to find out from Ernie Shell that there was an open CPS case into Summer, because that does give a motive, doesn't it? It does give a motive to pre-plan something out. Is that the reason Summer was the only child that went to the watering hole that day? Is that why Summer was left not supervised at the watering hole? Is that why H was picked up? Was he going to be the patsy? Except you couldn't, and I'm not saying they were going to like leave it at there, but they would have been able to muddy the waters a lot more having him there if he hadn't have had that doctor's appointment. If he wouldn't have had that doctor's appointment. But let's continue on, guys. So then they go back to Walgreens to pick up Grandis's prescription and Sonic, where Summer was not bought a lunch, even though it was well past lunchtime. So where was Summer and what was she doing at this time? Why wasn't she purchased lunch? Candus said they went grocery shopping at Priceless and dropped H off at home. Here's the other thing that's always bugged me, and tell me what you guys think about this in the comment section here. And if you want to join the top chat, you just need to be subscribed to Reporter Room for 1 minute, and you can post a comment in the top chat. Yeah, here's one thing that's like always bugged me a lot. Why don't we ever hear anything about what Summer said? We don't hear one thing from Candus, from Grandis, or from H. We don't hear one thing that Summer said, I would like a piece. Summer asked me for a piece of candy. Summer said, could I have a piece of candy, please, Grandma? We don't hear anything about words that Summer actually used. So was she really talking? Because if so, why haven't there been any words that we've heard that this so-and-so said this or so-and-so said that? We know Candus tells us very specific details about how carefully she watched Summer walk into the house, which that never made any sense either, because Grandis's trailer is right here and the house, the door to the house is right here. Why would she have to watch very, very carefully? They lived in a remote area up on a hill. So why do we not have any accounts of anything that day of what Summer said? I don't hear anything about Summer said, well, Candus said, oh, we got her out of the water, or I was at Sonic and Summer wanted to get this and I didn't want to get it for her. Whatever. We don't have anything. We don't have anything. Hey, Rianne. And no, Energy Shot says, I heard the boys were with Dawn at work. Was that ever confirmed? No, it was never confirmed. That we don't even know if Dawn was at work. We still don't know. Here we are months later. We still don't know where Dawn was. I mean, we know what he told us. He says he was at work. I'm assuming that the dispatch call, because we've never heard the 911 call from Dawn or Candus. And it was always very odd to me that Dawn would call 911, because he knew Candus was going to call 911 that day, because he told her to do it. He told Candus to call 911. But when you listen to the dispatch call, it definitely sounds like the 911 call came from Dawn. He got Summer's age wrong. And he said that Candus was out for a walk. And okay, let's say that that's true. We know that there were footprints found, right? We know that there were footprints found on neighbors' properties. We've all seen the maps. We've all seen that the footprints were found. So if Candus was out for a walk, why? Why was she out for a walk? Candus says herself she doesn't like to go out and go for a walk. She denies that she ever went for a walk. Why deny it? Except we know that the dog's alerted. We even know from cracking cases that a dog, they said it wasn't a normal scent dog. So I'm assuming that it was a cadaver dog alerted at a neighbor's property near an outbuilding. Who would know that there was a outbuilding and was Summer put in there for some period of time? And that's why the dog alerted there. We have the call from dispatch. Rianne's like, I don't know if we've heard the call from dispatch. I played it in my video. That's a great question, Rianne. We do have the call from dispatch, but what we've never heard are either Dawn or Candus's 911 call. And I think that's really interesting. Let's continue on, guys. And Tara says, oh, who is H? Okay, so yeah, H is Allie's son, and we just don't use his full name here. Just, because he is underage. Then they unloaded the groceries and planted flowers. Grandis says, in contrast, they unloaded groceries and that she took a nap and that they planted cactus, not flowers. So where was Don during this time? He was supposedly at work until Candus called him. The whole planting cactus, planting flower thing is what makes me doubt this whole script. The fact that Grandis could not remember the name of Warriors Path State Park makes me doubt this whole script. It makes me think that maybe this just was a scripted thing. And that's why the details got a little bit muddied, because I don't think you would mistake a cactus for a flower and a flower from a cactus. And I would think that these details on that day would be etched in your mind. I think you would remember the place where you last watched your granddaughter swim. I think you would remember the name of that place on the very last day that you saw her. But let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. But most people who work in that type of industry and construction start their day early and end their day early. So was he really still at work until 6:30 p.m.? That's the other thing that's bizarre. For those of you that know people that work in the South in construction, they usually start early, right? They want to be there as soon as they can, 7:30, sometimes earlier, while it's still cool out. And they usually work until around 3 or 3:30. What was he doing at a construction job site until 6:30 that night? I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it's unusual. It was June 15th, so it would have been hot. And Candus has told us how hot it was that day. So wouldn't Don have gotten up early and gone into work and been done around 3:30, 4 o'clock before the heat of the day really set in? So he wouldn't have to be working hours and hours in the heat of the day. Why was he still there at 6:30 at night to call 911? That just never added up to me. And then, yeah, I'm seeing a lot of comments on Ronnie Lawson. I talked about that with Ziggy. And I think that, I think that we do have concerns about that. And Linda, you're right. I mean, we know Candus wouldn't go out, but Candus told us herself she wasn't going to go out and take a walk because of bears and coyotes, right? But yet she was out taking a walk that day, according to the dispatch. And I don't believe the dispatch got it wrong. Not everybody else didn't get it wrong except for Don and Candus and Grandis. Somebody knows what happened. So Candus gets sloshed. We learned this from Benny Keys, that she gets sloshed every night around 5 p.m. So what was she doing at 5 p.m. that day? Because 911 wasn't called until 6:30 p.m. and Summer was reported missing to the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office at that time. So what happened between the time they dropped H off at Allie's house around 2:20 to 2:30 and 6:30 p.m.? That's a long time. That's just not accounted for. Grandis was smart. Grandis said, I took a nap. Because Grandis isn't going to go down for this. Grandis was smart. I took a nap. So I don't know. She kind of, in my opinion, she went off the script when she did that interview. Now, maybe it was not intentional. But maybe Grandis is just smart. Mine saying World of Terror says, it doesn't make sense, Jessica. They are building 5 new homes in my neighborhood, and these guys are always gone by 4:35. Exactly. I don't think it's normal to still be there at 6:30 at night. And again, why would he call 911 when he told Candus to do it? It doesn't make sense. But let's continue on, guys. Let's continue on. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the Summer Wells case. We also talked about the Kiely Rodni case. And if you want to join the top chat, you just need to subscribe to Reporter Room and you can join the top chat. And I will be sharing some of your comments on air. Grandis claims that they unloaded the groceries and that she went in and took a nap and then they planted cactus. So there's a big gap in that timeline. Where was Summer during this time? We know that Ernie is claiming that there was a CPS case open into Don Wells. We know that Summer was about to go off to school and that CPS can question children without their parents present. We know that harming a child age 8 and under is a felony with 2 to 12 years of mandatory jail time. 2 to 12 years. We know from Ernie Shell there was an open investigation, an open CPS case. We know from research, I know from research that I've done, what the laws are, that if the child is 8 years old or under, that's a felony with 2 to 12 years, mandatory jail time. That's a long time. There was only one child in the Wells household that was under the age of 9, and that was Summer. That's a motive. That's a motive. Was this planned out in advance? What do you guys think? We know this sounds like a strong motive. What do you think? Finally, consider this bizarre statement that Don made to the Kingsport Times News. Quote, I'll see her in the resurrection. I think that's the other thing that's really bugged me about Don and Candus. And I think a lot of us, have a lot of red flags because from out of the gate, that interview that they did that was almost 2 weeks out. It's the first time we ever saw Candus on camera, right? And they sat down and they did the interview. I think it was WJHL. They sat down and they did the interview, and Don kept referring to Summer in the past tense, and he kept saying, "I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to do that. I apologize." Where did he learn that he shouldn't refer to Summer in the past tense? But even though he knows he's not supposed to do it, because it shows that he doesn't think that Summer is still with us. Even though he knows that he's not supposed to do it. They obviously knew they weren't supposed to be doing that. And law enforcement didn't tell them they weren't allowed to do that. Believe me, law enforcement wanted that interview and they wanted it on camera. So where did he get that impression from that he wasn't supposed to do that? But even though he wasn't supposed to do it, the truth was still leaking out because he still kept doing it. And this is where I just can't get past this whole thing of what do we really think happened? What really happened in this case? Who knew what when? And why were they already referring to her in the past tense? Why wouldn't Candus come on camera right away? Why not come on camera immediately and beg for her return? That's what Lindsay Neiman did with Kiely. She didn't wait 2 weeks. She didn't wait 2 weeks. It's weird, right? If you found this video to be helpful, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching. See you next time. So I am going to leave it there. If you guys, please tell me what you think in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this case. Tell me what you think about the ongoing investigation into the Kiely Rodni case. Are we going to find out who supplied what to who at the party, at the senior farewell party at the Lake Prosser campground? Are we going to find out who supplied what to who? Is that what the open and ongoing investigation by law enforcement into this case is about? And in the Summer Wells case, are we going to find out what really happened to Summer? Because I don't want this case to go cold, and I know you guys don't want this to happen either. I do want to thank our executive producers, Energy Shots and Don K, our producers, Joy Cowley, Sweet B, and Sasha Angel, and our awesome channel members. And I would just ask, if you've enjoyed this coverage, please subscribe to Reporter Room. And thank you so much to all of our subscribers and to our mods. I just want to thank you so much. I saw Tara in there. I saw Rianne. I saw Six Sense Amelia. I just want to thank our mods so much. I hope I didn't leave out a mod, but I saw Sweet B in there. I really want to thank all of you guys for your great help tonight. And if you would just be so kind as to hit the like button on your way out and subscribe on your way out if you haven't already. And thank you for your ongoing and caring support of Reporter Room. To all of you out there, I love you. I'm grateful for you, and I thank you. See you next time. Bye.